Hello. Hello. Welcome to the stream. We are live on YouTube and Twitch to watch and discuss the live feeds after they have come back from the veto ceremony, in which Lauren has, in fact, nominated Adrian and not Ashley, which is very wild. Very wild. Pretty devastating for certain players. Pretty game making for others. So we've gotta talk it through. Basically, she woke up this morning and I mean, Ashley and company just worked harder. There's a few things. One is that we talked about that pitch from Keanu this morning about this whole plan that he can take, that they made a deal and that he could name the Renom and that he would take credit for it. That very firmly backfired. She very much was like, I don't want to be associated with this man. And he went in there this morning and was like, listen, have you ever played sports? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, have you ever been on a team? She's like, not really. Well, if you'd been on a team, you would know that this is how it works. And I mean, because here's the thing. I very much expected that after a day full of not really talking to Vince or Zach about the replacement nominee, that she would wake up in the morning, she would talk to them, they would at the very least be neutral to pro Ashley going up, and that all of like any momentum that she had from the night before would dissipate from the night of sleep, and you know that they would be able to counter it. Instead, what happened was person after person got up in that HOH, and Vince and Zach basically didn't talk to her until right before the ceremony. And the only people that did go up to talk to her were either like Keanu doing work against the plan unintentionally, and Ashley and Mickey. And Mickey was very good in there, prayed with her. Adrian tried to go up there. He was spitting truth. He was. But she couldn't hear it from him. And then basically Zach and Vince dropped in at the last minute to check in and be like, hey, so we good? And she was like, not really. What I will say about Adrian's pitch, I think that one of the things that he was saying was like, and that side is already like conspiring against each other. Like Mickey's talking about Morgan. They're already like, is that the side you want to like appease? They're like, they're not even with each other solidly. And I was like, that's a very bad argument, Adrian. Because Adrian keeps trying to make this pitch of like, there's liars, there's truth tellers, don't work with the liars. But by saying that the other side is not together, he's actually just like opening up the door for Lauren to be like, oh, so I do have room to work with them. Hold on. Now Lauren's talking to Kelly. I also have to finalize the stock watch survey. Yeah. She speaks in slow motion, I swear to God. Kelly is not pleased. I'm posting the survey now. Kelly is asking Lauren for help to stay with the votes. Adrian is talking with Jimmy and Vince. Vince is, of course, celebrating with Jimmy. Oh, we did it. We got Adrian up. Hold on, I have another tweet to make. Okay. So here are the ramifications, I think. With Adrian on the block, you now have a scenario where even right before the ceremony, Renegade, thank you for the 53rd. Zach was trying to gather votes for Will to leave. That is still technically possible. So I tweeted this out because Zach was basically saying, "Oh, if Adrian's up on the block, we don't have the votes." And I was thinking, "Oh, he's kind of right." And I tweeted that out that like with Ashley off the block, the votes aren't really there to keep Will or to evict Will anymore. And that is, I think, mostly true, but it's not necessarily strictly true. Because technically they could still muster the votes to protect either Adrian or Kelly by making it 6-6 and then having Lauren break the tie to evict Will. But the thing is that given that Lauren has already made the decision to not break the tie, or sorry, to not go against the women by putting Ashley on the block, there's very little reason for her to put herself out there and break a tie to evict Will, pissing them off in the process when she doesn't have to, when it's Will that you're getting out and not Ashley. Will is not really worth that smoke. And so Lauren alone feels very unlikely that she would do that, let alone Zach and Vince, willingly walking into a 6-6 tie also. So at this point, it does feel very likely that Will should be safe. With that in mind, this means that one of Adrian or Kelly is leaving. That's bad for Lauren, obviously. She is using her HOH to take somebody out of the game who is both a willing ally of hers and capable of winning competitions and a threat. I said both, but there's three things: a threat to the other side, a target for the other side. And I say other side, she could still technically work with them, but she is certainly not well positioned in their hierarchy, at least at the moment. It's a bad move. What I will say is it's worse for Vince and Zach than it is for Lauren. It's worst of all for Vince. It's not very good for Zach, depending on the outcome. As if Adrian stays, Zach is kind of chilling. If Kelly stays, Vince is it's slightly less bad for Vince. But if Kelly leaves here, it's devastating for Vince's game. Whereas if Adrian leaves, it's just like a big missed opportunity for Zach's, right? Vince has so much work to do to rebound from this. He may lose Kelly, a massive shield weapon ally of his, on the HOH of his final two, one of the final twos that he has the most amount of influence over. He got a lot of heat for spending so much time with her this week and having so much influence over her HOH this week. He got all the smoke for that and none of the benefit. In fact, the reverse. This is one of the worst things that could have happened for Vince's game this week, to lose Kelly. It's so bad for Vince. And he so terribly dropped the ball this week. She literally, right before the veto ceremony, was saying, just tell me what to do. And he still wouldn't just outright say it. He should have been on this from the start. He shouldn't have gotten her to avoid putting Ashley on the block initially. Ashley was one of Lauren's initial ideas for somebody that she wanted on the block. Vince was part of talking her out of that, then never put enough work to make sure that she eventually went on the block. Instead, has now allowed two of his allies onto the block and got all of the smoke for it anyway. It's such a historically bad week. And it comes off of the previous week where he was HOH and nearly did the same thing. He just got lucky that Kelly won that blockbuster. All right, Zach's now in there with Adrian and Vince. Kelly's gonna say all kinds of things about throwing whatever. I don't take it as gospel until it's Thursday morning. Has Will done anything this week? Not much. Eastnick, thank you for the 65th. Can I rank the 3 HOHs this season? They've all been genuinely terrible. What I will say for Jimmy is that the last couple days I've been saying, man, Jimmy's HOH ends up looking worse than Vince's because the result is looking worse. But then they come away with this kind of clean, and now all of a sudden Jimmy's HOH, while still bad, not looking as bad. Now Vince's HOH is looking worse, and Lauren's HOH is looking even worse because people tend to judge by results. I still think that Vince's HOH is the worst of all of them in terms of decision making. It's just not the worst in terms of outcome. The thing about Lauren's is that she still has some outs. I think this is a bad move. I think it's a bad decision. But she should have time to rebound, technically. The problem is that the kind of player that makes this kind of decision is not the kind of player that tends to be able to rebound. And this is the same thing I said about Vince in week 1. I said, like, is this going to destroy his game immediately? Maybe, maybe not. But even if it doesn't, if he's the kind of player to make this move, he's the kind of player to make this mistake again in the future. And I feel like here we are again. It's like barely a week later. Barely 2 weeks later, I should say. And Vince made the same mistake. He was like, man, I couldn't get Kelly out on my HOH. Accidentally. I need to accidentally get Kelly out on my next closest ally's HOH. But yes, what I'm saying is, in the world where Lauren is a capable enough player to rebound from this, he should have some time. There, as Adrian mentioned, there are cracks in the other side of the house. And so if they do become the power structure, there's room in there for her to maneuver. And honestly, because this is worse for Vince, if Vince does take a hit, that's actually not the worst thing for Lauren, because quite frankly, the worst thing for Lauren is having Vince in the game. She's way too loyal to him, and he's not a very valuable ally. So Vince leaving could open Lauren up to aligning with somebody who is much more beneficial to her game. And let me tell you, I'm never the person who says that. People say this all the time. Well, you know, like maybe if Rachel loses Amy, it'll benefit her. I disagree. I think that having a number 1 in the game is always valuable. Losing them, you can find some pluses to it, some upsides, but it's still going to be bad for you to lose that number. Vince is not a real number 1. He's not a real number. He is a fake number. This was in the promo for the live feed updates this season when I called Tyler a parasite, because Tyler's not a real number for you unless you're Casey or Angela. And Vince isn't a real number for you at all. He's loyal to no one. And so he doesn't bring any value to your game. He's not even influencing your game, which is almost worse than trying to influence your game. And he's just kind of putting you in the line of fire. If Lauren is able to find somebody that will reciprocate her loyalty and actually like work with her in the game with actual advice and thoughts and things like that, that will be much more beneficial to her, I think, than working with Vince. And I think the same is true of anybody that's trying to work with Vince. So there's a world where this works out for her, but very unintentionally. She doesn't have that information, obviously. And the bottom line is that, like, this was her opportunity to sort of create a power structure, and that would have been very good for her. There's a very good path for her down this direction. The other direction that she took doesn't mean that she's devastated, but it's definitely not great. But like, here's the thing. This is what I was talking about this morning with Ava. Like, if like Ava hooked up with Rachel, Rachel is now, I think, in a position to potentially help Ava become a more active player. If Lauren is able to hook up with somebody like Rachel, doesn't have to be Rachel, but like Rachel, who gives her the motivation and the security to play a bit more actively, she could become a different player, which is what she kind of needs to do if she wants to like win this game, I think. So all of that to say, I don't think that this is like game ending for Lauren, but I do think it's a big mistake. And we will have to see what comes of it for her. For Vince, it's looking very bad. There are a lot of people, Ashley included, who are looking at targeting Vince like soon. And the fact that Kelly might leave, because like, man, it's so bad for Vince if Kelly leaves. It's so bad. Rachel is out for his throat. And one of the only people in the way that Rachel kind of has to deal with first, maybe, is Kelly. And if Kelly leaves, she doesn't have to deal with Kelly anymore. She's already called a truce with Keanu. So she doesn't even have to deal with Keanu anymore. Kelly's off the out of the way. Who does Rachel have to go after? It's literally just Vince. And she's going to be pushing that with anybody she talks to, too. People like Ava. People like Mickey. Who leaves of Adrian versus Will? It very likely is Adrian, but I bet that Zach will try to swing some votes. But in order to swing those votes, I talked about this at the start. In order to swing those votes, they would need all 6 of the possible votes to keep Adrian, which include Vince, who would have to go out on a limb on a 6-6 vote, and include Lauren, the tiebreaker, who just displayed that she's not willing to make that move. And if she wasn't willing to make the move on Ashley, why would she be willing to make it on Will? It just doesn't really make sense. At that point, I do start to drift back into the like, if you could take out Ashley, a proven competitor, a number for the other side, somebody that you don't super get along with, okay, it's worth calling for war. If you're doing this for Will, at that point, I'm like, maybe you need to just take a moment and reset your game and drop Vince. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. Listen. I was on record this morning. I really did not think that this would go this way. I was listening to the mind-numbing conversations yesterday. And the thing for me is that I very rarely did I see Lauren talking about like the world that Adrian went up. And more importantly, she didn't come back to Zach. I think maybe my mistake was probably that the way that I will often make predictions is like what was the last thing talked about with their closest allies? Um, like if the last thing that Lauren said to Vince and Zach was, um, it's very likely Ashley, which was basically what it was. And then she has a bunch of conversations where she's like, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Long conversations with Ashley that are super awkward. Um, and basically implied to Ashley that she's going up multiple times. And then never came back around and had a proper conversation with either Zach or Vince. She did tell Zach that she was still undecided, but I really just felt like that was that she just hadn't locked it in yet. Um, and I really felt like, because Zach was like, sleep on it. I really felt like Zach would be right up there in the morning. I felt like Vince would be talking to her and she'd have that conversation. It would be in a safe space and they would want Ashley up and Ashley would be up. And what I did not account for was that Vince and Zach didn't talk to her until the very last second. And I think like it's so broken in my brain. Like talking with Vince is meaningless. And I think the like Lauren kind of recognizes that. That's why she didn't bother to talk to him. Because like, it just never happens this way. It just I need to this is my perspective. This genuinely doesn't happen. It's so rare for a player who has a final two that they are loyal to, genuinely loyal to change their mind on a very important decision for nominations without consulting the final two. It just doesn't happen. But because of like the relationship that they have and the way that Vince operates, it is what happened. It's just weird. That just doesn't happen. Oh boy. The positive of this, I mean, there are many theoretically, um, but the episode on Wednesday should be much better now. Because now they can genuinely start with her having her mind made up, ready to declare war, and then watch her get worn down and genuinely convinced to go in the other direction. I mean, who knows if we actually get something entertaining that way, but all right, Ava's talking to Zach and Vince. It was that. I mean, listen, two of the people in your alliance go up on the block. That's definitely a choice. When Ava is saying the alliance is done. The person who named the alliance. You know it's done. And frankly, if they did go talking about the alliance, I couldn't blame them. Ava's giving me big Izzy talking to Cameron energy right now. Vince is trying to like do his Vince thing, and she's like, Vinny, Keanu can do whatever he wants. I honestly don't care. So I feel like, you know how I've been saying it's extra devastating for Vince if Kelly leaves? Right now he's campaigning for Adrian to stay and for Kelly to leave to Ava. I think he's doing this. I mean, because I think he genuinely does. I think want Adrian to stay over Kelly. I think that he's kind of done with Kelly, even though he kind of shouldn't be. He's also doing this because he feels comfortable advocating for the bond. Adrian's in the bond. Kelly is not. So I think that's sort of where that's coming from. Ava is anti-Vince, and Adrian himself is sketched out about Vince. Basically, Kelly is pro Vince. Adrian is mildly anti Vince. Will is pretty firmly anti Vince. So there's a very clear option for Vince if he knew what was going on. On top of that, Adrian and Will are not likely going to be primary targets over Vince in the event that somebody who is anti Vince wins power. Kelly is a much better shield on top of being more pro Vince than anyone else. Zuka, thank you. On chapter 10? Which one is chapter 10? Let me look. It's pretty far in. Hmm. There are some advanced reader copies that advanced readers who are able to sign up for those have. Signed version is at TaranArmstrong.com. You can look at the link here, QR code. Thank you, Zuka. More of a standard reader. Um, I honestly if you wanted to be somebody who got an advanced copy, I would ask the people who have gotten them because I actually don't know how it works. Hornet, thank you for the 59th. I also don't know how many are like how many would even go out or how many can go out. Thank you for the 300 bits. Um Yes, thank you, Ariel. I've been using BB Viewer, the updated BB Viewer, and it's so much nicer than having to use the Tamper Monkey script plus BB Viewer. Um, I did ask. I mentioned this in my Discord. I did ask my agent about international shipping. She said not likely that we'll be able to find a way to ship signed copies internationally. But that she would look into it. So I will get back to you international people about that. You can of course get a non-signed copy fairly easily. It's the signed stuff that I guess is pretty difficult. I think especially right now because I don't know because of things. um, it's one of my primary ideas that I will try to look into is that there may be other stores um, in the area that maybe would ship internationally. I could try to talk to them, but again, it's going to be TBD at the moment. You can get it in Canada, yeah. Non-signed copy on Amazon said it won't be released in Australia until January. Oh boy. I mean, I would check like Barnes and Noble, check a couple other places. Maybe you could get them from there, but I'm not like super knowledgeable about it. Um, the signed link. So the bookstore I'm working with, they will ship to U.S. and Canada. Those are the two places. Look at this victory party with Morgan, Mickey, and Ashley. They put in the work. What does this mean for Ava's game? This is a good thing. Good things. Good things for Ava's game, I would say. Um, bolstering the women's side of the house, I think, is good for Ava. Kelly leaving is good for Ava. Adrian leaving is pretty decent for Ava. Not necessarily the best, but not bad. This is the best way for Ava to be able to continue to play both sides to some degree, because the side that is losing right now, that is sort of like on the outs, which is the guys right now, is the side that she has less of a footing in, but still enough of a connection that she can maintain her safety if they win. And the side that is on top, she has good standing in, and is also fractured enough that she's got like plenty of good space in there to operate. I do have to record a Tastemakers episode shortly, so we will have to cut this stream moderately short. But Tastemakers is the I do a podcast on the RGP network called the Tastemakers over on the We Know Scripted TV feed. I do it with Grace, and we talk about it's weekly. We talk about like the week in scripted shows. So today I plan to talk about like we were going to talk about Fantastic Four, some shows coming up like Twisted Metal is starting season 2. Together is coming out, the movie. Some news as well. Kind of a light week, to be honest, in TV, but what happened to American Ninja Warrior? Honestly, I kind of lost my interest in American Ninja Warrior after the what's his name? Drew oh Jesus, what was his name? Drew Dreschel thing? I almost said Drew Daniel. Um I am watching Dexter. I'm loving it. I've been talking about it on Tastemakers. Um but yeah, I mean genuinely people like Tastemakers I would say is not like doesn't have a ton of viewership and or listenership in comparison to obviously like Big Brother stuff, but the people that do watch/listen seem to really enjoy it. I think it's a pretty good podcast. It's just that obviously the audience is mostly reality. I've been meaning to check out Institute, but obviously it's been tough. Devil's Plan content is on the Patreon. If you're looking at that. I mean, the hope for Tastemakers is basically like sort of what I do for Big Brother, in the sense that like the idea is you can listen to the Tastemakers and then hopefully you will be able to sort of like feel like you're a little bit more on top of like what's happening in the world of TV and film, in the same way that it like you listen to a live feed update to sort of stay on top of what's happening on the live feeds. Generally comes out on Tuesdays, or sorry, Mondays now. So we usually record it, comes out the same day. I did check out Smoke. Roundtables are moved to Mondays because of Melissa's work schedule. Roundtable survey is out. You can find it on my Twitter and or Blue Sky. I have I talked to Taylor about BB Unlocked? I mean, we did on stream. If that's what you mean, we had a whole stream with Taylor on. Um, Post episode, I did text her to congratulate her. Chatted a little bit about the episode. Oh, what? Talking about the movie. Do I think CBS intentionally chose passive players to protect Rachel? No, no. The thing about production is that like they are not as all knowing as I think people sometimes think they are. Like there's this notion also that like Redemption Island was cast so that Boston Rob would be able to like clean his way up to a win. Um which is just feels so silly even if you think about it logically because there was basically one cast or one tribe that was very anti vet and one tribe that was much more open to it. And it was like a coin flip, I think, right? Like you could say that they were hoping that one of Boston Rob or Russell would clean up. But even then, you're not guaranteeing that that tribe actually wins challenges enough to have a majority going into the merge. And at the end of the day, wait, what is Ava saying? What did she say? I just saw her look. I didn't hear what she said. She loves hanging out in that bed, let me tell you. Um if production knew exactly like how people would act or play based on their interviews before being on the show, um there'd never be a dud player cast in the show. You know what I mean? There'd never be a Riley. Um there'd be like 5 different showmances every season. Um Everyone would constantly be getting into fights, you know what I mean? Like there's only so much they like actually know. 15 Jimmys. And it's the same thing with like DR manipulation. Like, I think some people in their minds, like you have this idea of like the omniscient big brother, like manipulating people in the diary room. But the reality is that they're just producers and they're just looking for lines. You know what I mean? They're just looking for lines for the show so that they can use the show and plug them in and put it in the edit. And the people in the producers in the diary room are not, you know, the next coming of Dan Giesling, able to subtly manipulate people into doing the things that they want them to do. You know what I mean? There are other shows who have famously some, or at least have had famously some manipulative producers in the past who have been able to manipulate their contestants, but that's on shows that don't have live feeds, that have a lot more leeway and ability to connect with and interfere with people on their casts. Um, Famously, The Bachelor. I'll ask the question from last night. Do I think Vince's stock drops tonight? Yeah. I have seen Unreal, yeah. That was definitely my thought. Did you know, actually? This is a fact I discovered when doing research for the book. It didn't really have a place in the book itself. I might have included a line about it. Um, Unreal, who is it based on? I'm trying to remember her name. Does anyone remember the name of the woman who worked on The Bachelor? They based Unreal on her. It's like Lisa or something. What's going on with my hair is that I was going to take a shower. Didn't have time, but will after I record this Tastemakers. Lisa Levinson, is that her name? Just came to me. Lisa Levinson, who they based that character in Unreal on her from The Bachelor. She has a very famous, infamous history with The Bachelor, known for like manipulating contestants. I discovered this in researching for the book that she actually has in you can look it up yourself. Like in her bios and stuff, she is credited for having worked on Big Brother season 2, and claims to have helped create the structure for the show of like the change from season 1 to season 2. I don't know how actually involved she was, but I thought that was very interesting. All right, I need to head over and record the Tastemakers. So thanks for hanging out. I'll be back later for the roundtable. And then tomorrow is Tuesday, update and stuff like that. All right. Thanks again for hanging out. See you all later tonight.